MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! What's up, everybody? I'm Guy. Text me there. That's John.
I was going to call myself John Schefter.
Texting on the air. Schefter has normalized texting while on camera.
Woj and Rap Sheet piggybacked off his
who did it
his
first?
Normalization of the phone on
Normalization, that's
on
right.
TV.
The two phones stacked. Did Schefter ever answer the phone on TV? I feel like he did once.
Did you see that clip? I think it was it Mother's Day? No, Mother's Day hasn't happened. Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, LeBron playing video games.
I didn't watch what was happening, but yeah, I did see it.
Well, he's talking to his wife. He's playing, Madden 2023 or whatever. And he goes to like text when he pressed pause. I swear to God, I think he had 3 phones. I just don't know what you would need 3 phones for.
Yeah, it's weird. You've been watching any of Jack Ryan on Prime?
Have I?
Okay, there's one thing about the show drives me nuts. One thing.
Are you up to date?
On the latest season, I've watched 5 episodes, so I have not finished it, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. Well, I just meant like I didn't. Sometimes you didn't know if you were on season 1.
Yes, I know. I have started shows 5 years behind. That's true.
5.
Sopranos. 1 episode left. One thing about Jack Ryan drives me crazy. This guy is a super secret spy. Okay, he moves in darkness and silence, and yet he texts with the haptics on. So he'll be like running from some Russian agent, and then he'll like stop in some dark alley, and you'll just hear him like texting. And then he'll turn his phone off and be like, I guess mine are off. But his little sounds on his phone are on when he texts. It makes no sense. He's like texting in a safe house, but then he'll like click his phone back in his pocket and then continue to chase somebody. Why are his haptics on? I don't understand the haptics, little noises. It makes no sense. It drives me crazy.
I used to have haptics on as well, and someone yelled at me to turn them off. They annoyed him, so I turned them off. I like them.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why it's good because you don't have to have the phone on your pocket like on your person all the time and all that. But
do you think it's hard to make the transition when you get pigeonholed in Hollywood? When you play the role in which he played, and I was never a huge Office guy, but we all know his character, to then become like Mission Impossible, Jason Bourne, what his version of Jack Ryan. I mean, it's just this ultimate, kind of James Bondish.
Yeah, it's an impressive transition.
Yeah, it's hard.
I saw an interview one time with somebody that said that John Candy, when he died, was about to make the transition into like more dramatic roles. And this actress that had worked with him, this was like an old interview at the time, was that people don't understand how talented this guy is. Like, he's going to be a huge star.
Yeah.
So, you never know.
Schwarzenegger did a few comedies.
Were they funny?
Yeah. Twins with what's his name? The little guy, Danny DeVito, was funny.
Yeah.
I feel like he's done some other ones that were, he's talented.
I'm pretty sure he turned down some huge movie, actually, in order to do a comedy. I don't know this. Maybe somebody knows the story right now, but
like, could Jim Carrey play in something serious? I guess he has.
Yeah, I mean, Will Ferrell has. Think about that one. Will Ferrell did that show with Paul Rudd.
Haven't seen it.
It was on Hulu or Apple Plus, where he's Paul Rudd is his like manipulative psychiatrist. Very dramatic, extremely dramatic.
Did you ever watch the show with Steve Carell where he's locked in the basement for 10 episodes on Hulu?
No, because you told me.
Yeah.
I watched the preview and I was like, and then you told me it wasn't that great. So Shrink Next Door was the Will Ferrell show.
Don't waste your time.
Shrink Next Door is good, but it's just, I felt just, so icky. I was just, he's just getting manipulated. It's very good though. Very good.
Check that out.
Yeah. We are sponsored by our friends at Tito's. Tito's Handmade Vodka. Big weekend of football. The national championship is coming up next week. And there's a lot going on. The playoffs are ahead. Or just nothing. Just hang time. Maybe you're watching a show, relaxing, whatever it is. Do it with our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka.
Yeah, we like to call it, as I just named, Wet January. And that is where our friends at Tito's play a big role in our life. And whether it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you name it, Tito's is there for you. Whether you're going out this weekend with your family, significant other, your wife, your brother, your cousin, your buddies,
Solo mish.
There's not. I never ever look down upon a solo. I love a good solo mish at the bar at a restaurant.
Yep.
It's actually one of my favorite pastimes in this world is to do that.
It's good
Time to yourself. Sometimes you luck into like a really good conversation with an interesting person.
Yep.
Sometimes you don't. It's risky, you know. It's like playing golf as a single at a pack course. You like sometimes you get a 3 other guys. You're like, shit, I like these guys. And other times you're like, oh my god, I regret this.
My favorite YouTube, my favorite IG videos are like just somebody like the random fourth they picked up who takes 7 minutes to swing. That video was always a great IG watch. Hey, Tito's. It is numero uno. Okay. Tito Beverage. That's the man's name. Built this thing himself, built his very own distillery, put his life savings in it, has won unanimous judges, double choice, double gold medals at the World Spirits Competition, Chairman's Trophy, World Best Vodka Tonic, many others. But simply put, it is the official drink of this show. You can also check out all kinds of great recipes, by the way, at Tito'sVodka.com. Drink it responsibly. Take it somewhere as a greeting. Have it on hand when someone's coming over. Order it at the bar or while you're sitting at the restaurant with some garlic bread or whatever it is you're eating. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% wings, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
French onion soup. It's cold outside.
Ooh, that's a good order right there.
I love French onion soup.
We're also brought to you by DraftKings. Right now, for wild card round action, the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the place to go. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. Code HAM.
Yep. Plus, all customers can get a no sweat bet each day of the wild card round next weekend. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code HAM, H-A-M. New customers can bet $5 on the NFL and get $200 in free bet instantly. That's code HAM, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario and Ohio. Bonus issued as free bets. One free bet issued based on amount of initial losing NFL bet is up to $10. Yep. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Eligibility and terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms.
Did you see that story? It would have been last week, which was kind of funny once the game played out because it was a massacre. Drew Brees was added as an assistant coach to Purdue. And because he's got that deal with no free ads here, whatever the gambling company is, which is not our gambling company, the gambling company, even though there was nothing shady or nefarious going on with the bets, they just paused all bets on the LSU Purdue game because of his affiliation.
Oh, wow. I did not know. I did not see that story.
Yeah,
now that you say it, I do remember somebody saying,
pretty sure LSU won like 75-0.
For the Purdue game, I saw somebody tweet or somebody said to me, like, I'm rooting for Purdue now that Brees is their coach. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Assistant.
Where did he come from?
They just needed a body. I think
Drew's just looking for.
He bored.
Looking for a career, man.
I saw a visual pregame LSU Purdue. It's Drew Brees, serious conversation, Brian Kelly, and Dan Orlovsky because he's calling the game, the three of them. And like the corner of the end zone, pregame, like pregame warm-ups, one of those where it's just still kind of loosey-goosey, everyone's shooting shit.
Yeah.
The LSU, I looked up one time, it was 30-0 before you could even blink. Destroyed them. One of those classics where it doesn't go Luke Fickell, the new coach, right on the coach. He just watches the game in the booth, just watching everything, having a good time, pretending it's not now my fault. Even though, did Purdue fire their coach? What happened?
He went to, is that the guy that went to Louisville?
Oh, Jeff Brom, huh? He's
Yeah.
from Louisville. Makes sense.
But like it was one of those I remember seeing like Purdue fans aren't mad.
How are they going to do
Because
better?
remember, Louisville played Cincinnati. Their coach left, or maybe it was that guy, the Louisville coach, sorry, Satterfield, that their fans were mad because that guy went to Cincinnati and those two teams played each other in the ball game.
I just think that the difference of the majority of just solid coaches is not that much different. I mean, I think there's a small difference of just college coaching now that's all, and part of it has to do with recruiting is kind of equalized a little bit with the transfer portal has really thrown everything into a loop.
Yeah.
I watched Ohio State and Georgia and just thought there's just a level of player that's going to like the top 5 or 6 schools that is just on a different level than most programs. Now, sometimes you hit, strike oil and develop a guy. You get a Logan Mankins from a 0-star. But for the most part, some of those athletes that James Franklin had at Penn State, like I do understand why they're ranked in the top 5 or 6 every single year in recruiting. Like they are getting a different level guy, It's just, it is what it is.
I was looking today. I got
63-7 was the final
of the LSU game,
which in a bowl game is pretty ugly, man. And this isn't a December 15th bowl game. This was a date, the 31st. I mean, usually that late you get even a couple score game, right? This is 63-7.
In the top 10 defensive yards per play, number 4 Alabama, number 5 Penn State, Cincinnati, Michigan.
I sent you that thing. The Kevin Clark did a still shot of the recruiting rankings at quarterback from like 2016 or whatever, and he was like, God, there's a lot going on here. And it was like some of the players that were included were like Lamar Jackson, Jawan Jennings, Sam Darnold. It was just a crazy mix of guys.
Jawan Jennings was a quarterback?
Was a quarterback out of high school, yeah.
He went to Penn State, right?
No, he went to Tennessee, remember?
Oh, sorry. Different.
I'm talking the 49ers, Jawan Jennings.
Gotcha. Not the Saints, Jawan Jennings.
No, here he tweeted it because Jared Stidham, the 2015 class, he just quoted and said, there's a lot going on here. Number 1, Jarrett Stidham. Number 2, Kyler Murray. People forget Jarrett Stidham originally went to Baylor and then transferred to Auburn.
I'd forgotten that. That was A&M Kyler?
This was A&M Kyler.
Okay. Brandon
Wimbush. I remember the name, player,
Notre Dame.
Oregon, Travis Johnson.
Jonsen, yeah.
Yep. Number 5, overall quarterback, Jawan Jennings from Tennessee. Number 6, Sam Darnold, Sam Clemente. Number 7, from Athens, Ohio, Joe Burrow, Ohio State. Tennessee got 2 quarterbacks. They had this other guy, Sherian Jones. Number 9, Lamar Jackson. Number 10, some guy no one's ever heard of.
What's the name?
Josh Pellerin, Ole Miss. Pretty crazy list of guys.
Wow. Jawan Jennings. Wait, did Jawan catch the ball or throw the ball week 18 last year?
He caught the double pass.
He caught it, yeah.
Because my buddy Scotty, who listener to this podcast, Scotty Raber, was like, I wonder when Kyle busts out the Jawan Jennings throw. I wonder if he's got that in his back pocket. Because you're not the number 5 rated quarterback in the country. Even 8 years later, if you could throw a little, right?
Absolutely. What was it was the McCaffrey story where Kyle put his head out the office, like, anybody know if Christian can throw? And the tight end coach, Brian Fleur, was like, yeah, I got the tape right here. He can throw.
Everyone's fighting to get it back to the head coach.
When you watch the SEC on CBS this year, there would always be that. They're like promo of like all the biggest moments. The Jawan Jennings Hail Mary catch was always in that highlight. I saw it like 6 times this year just because it was in part of CBS's montage of like, it's the college football on CBS, and they show great things, and that was always one of them.
I think Jawan Jennings made the right decision. He's going to have a pretty lucrative career at his position.
Yeah.
for being a 7th round pick.
7th round pick.
It's pretty crazy. Like, you watch him, clearly he's not the fastest guy or whatever. You go, wait, there were 250 guys better in the draft than this guy?
I know.
Hard to think, but it's just that happened.
And then
right?
didn't really play right away either, right?
Hard, because remember they had, I think, was Bourne still on the team that first year that he got here?
Yeah, it might have been.
Or might have been, yeah, it might have been one more. Yeah, I think he was.
TCU a 13.5 point underdog, by the way.
Feels a little big, doesn't it?
National title game on Monday night. I think it does feel big, yeah. I was watching, did we talk about this? The Stetson Bennett post-game interview after the semifinal game, and then he just acted like it was the greatest game ever played, and then Kirby Smart was like, yeah, he's got to be better. We got to be better. Stetson's got to be a lot better if we're going to win. We got to be better. Just not good enough. Just not good enough. And the sideline reporter was like, well, go enjoy that one, Kirby. And I'm like, Kirby is not enjoying this at all. And Stetson was acting like he'd won the championship. He's like, I can't even put. Now, in his defense, like, it just had a crazy finish. Ohio State was about to knock them out. Their season was done. The guy missed the field goal. So it was a pretty dramatic.
They blew a coverage, but he threw a dime on a big bomb, and then he threw a game-winning touchdown, which, if I wanted to nitpick on that, and I was like bedridden, but there were 55 seconds on the clock, on the game clock, and there was 14 seconds on the play clock. It's like, why are you snapping the ball so early? Because clearly they were in that weird spot. You had to score a touchdown, but you weren't in a huge rush. They gifted them an extra minimum 10 seconds.
Well, and Herbie made the point, like, they cut to him on the sideline, Stetson, and he's like, right now he's got to be thinking about how they didn't take enough time off the clock. Good point by Herbie.
He's had a pretty good run as a walk-on quarterback, wouldn't you say, for an SEC player?
Yeah. Has he graduated?
I'm sure. He's been there 7 years. He was the backup, I saw someone say, before he transferred to the junior college, to the team that beat Lincoln Riley and Baker Mayfield in the Rose Bowl back in the, what year would that have been? 18? 17? 17.
17 was his freshman year. Then he goes to JC in 18. Then he backs up Fromm in 19.
Baker Mayfield's been in the league. This is his 5th-year option. He was the backup quarterback against that team.
Yeah. Incredible.
That team had Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. I would say if you put those two guys on this Georgia team and Roquan, that team was pretty good too.
Georgia's just been turning.
Kirby's had a pretty good run here.
Kirby's just. I don't know how he coaches all his hair over his forehead, but that's a different story. All right, so a lot of people trying to figure out what to do. Well, the NFL's trying to figure out what to do right now. And I guess the good news is that it seems like DeMar Hamlin's doing well enough that it doesn't feel totally inappropriate to have the conversation about, what to do with the game, what to do with not so much the game, but with the seeding, and whether or not the game should count or whether or not there are some pretty crazy scenarios being thrown around, like adding an 8th, Florio wrote, adding an 8th seed so that there's no buys, so that somebody doesn't get disadvantaged in the AFC is one option. Having the Chiefs choose whether they want to be the top seed and have a bye or have a home game is one of the options.
Would the NFC add an 8th team too?
Yeah, that was one of the scenarios. The scenario I saw, I think it was Florio or somebody else wrote, like, if you're going to add an 8th team in the AFC, you're going to have to add an 8th team in the NFC, which I don't know that you have to, but someone was like, well, I mean, if we're going to add a game, I mean, shit, might as well add 2,
So potentially there would be 8 games next weekend?
Potentially.
You
probably want to, I mean, we got to know.
Not totally opposed, honestly.
Yeah. That
so
means.
What do you do? 3, 4, 3, and 1? Do you do 2 doubleheader Monday night?
Would it guarantee that? Could the loser of Detroit? So it would guarantee that the winner of the Detroit Green Bay game would get in, even if Seattle won earlier in the day.
No, because Seattle would be in. So it would be.
But I'm saying if you added an 8th team and then Detroit beat Green Bay, Detroit would also be in.
That seems a little extreme.
Yeah. I look, my first reaction is I mean, whatever they want to do, I'm not up in arms over any of it. I'm really whatever. I mean, the situation that has brought us here is pretty horrific, and I think everyone's just glad that you can just kind of have the conversation that feels like the Bills are maybe just feeling a little better because Hamlin.
See his dad went on the Zoom with the team.
No, I did not see that. What did he
Hamlin's
say?
dad.
Was
Just
that today?
talked to him. It might have been yesterday, but
That's fair. That must have been pretty emotional, but also very cool for them.
see Zach Taylor say that Sean McDermott looked at him like, I got to go to the hospital. Like,
yeah. So to me, the easiest solution, I think, is just to say that game's a no contest. You didn't play it. No contest different than a tie. If it's a tie, then it's a little bit different because I think you get like half a percentage point or whatever for a tie. So you say no contest, and those two teams just played 16 games this year, and whatever the winning percentages are, the winning percentages are.
Yeah, you said that's the easy decision. I disagree. There's no easy decision. Just to say that thing's a no contest.
I just think it's the easy. Well, I think it's easy in the sense that it creates no other. You don't play another game. Nobody has to make any other decisions. It's just as simple as math. Like the game didn't get finished. It's a no contest. So let's just do the math on who's the 1 seed, who's the 2 seed, who's the 3 seed.
I think the hard part about this is, unlike the NFC, and we'll dive into like the Eagles and the Niners didn't play. The Niners and the Cowboys didn't play. The Niners didn't play Minnesota. There's a lot of unknown going into this playoff, right? How the games are going to look. We saw the Bills beat the Chiefs. We saw the Bengals beat the Chiefs. We didn't get to see that game play out on Sunday night, but it was going to be played, right? That was the coolest part about the AFC is like all the heavyweights played each other this year.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty clear the Bills and the Chiefs. Remember how even though they weren't in the same division, obviously, but they just played each other every year. Our entire life was Peyton. The Colts and the Patriots play each other every regular season. Like that's going to be the Bills and the Chiefs. You could even say that's probably going to be the Bills and the Bengals and the Chiefs, and maybe even the Bills and the Bengals moving forward. Like there's
just you keep finishing first place. You just play first place schedules, so you play each other.
And it's just easy to rig it where you're just always going to have those three teams playing each other. Specifically for the Bills and the Chiefs, I guess the Bengals every once in a while, right, might not win the division. I mean, the Chiefs are winning this bad boy another 7 straight years, as long as Andy and Mahomes are erect. And the Bills too. I mean, they're not going anywhere. I have a hard time just doing like the game doesn't count or even a tie. When I say hard time, there is no scenario that they can choose beside the 8-teamer. That would be a little weird and probably unnecessary. Then I'm going to complain. If you just say the Bills got the number 1 seed, I'd be like, so be it. If you say that they do the thing where the Chiefs, pick and the Bills pick like the game theory thing, like you get one, you get the other. Like one gets home field, the other gets, it's kind of like everyone's calling it the game theory thing. The coin flip. Nothing's going to bother me just because this is a situation, and there are going to be people up in arms.
Philly will be bothered, right? If somehow Philly loses a bye. If the NFC adds if you do that, I know you said you didn't like that scenario.
That feels the most unlikely and crazy. That's the one scenario where I think a lot of people would be like, what the fuck? Why are you overcomplicating this?
Yeah. And by the time you're listening to this, if you're not watching if you're not watching it live, there may already be a solution.
I saw Schefter say there might not be a full concrete solution potentially till Saturday morning because there has to be one before the games play.
Yeah. And there's 2 games on Saturday.
Kind of important.
Somebody brought up a neutral site thing too. What was the neutral site scenario?
That the AFC Championship game would be played at a neutral site.
Yeah.
But that also assumes that like Chiefs and Bills take care of business. You just never know, right?
Right. What if the Chargers end up in the game? They're like, wait a second. What? Well, I guess they would be on the road. Yeah, you wouldn't play.
Depending on who they played. What if the Ravens knocked off some people? Or
right. I mean, those are 2 10-6 teams right now with the 5 and the 6 seeds.
Which feels unlikely.
But anyway, you don't like calling it a no contest.
Yeah, again, I'm not gonna. I don't like just pretending like the doing the percent, the winning percentage.
Yeah,
and to me, you just give it a tie if you're gonna count the game.
That's fine for me too. I don't know. I'd have to do the math. Like it does potentially give you a little bit of a different win percentage than calling it a no contest does.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs win this weekend, which they're going to. They're going to be I guess unless
They'll
the
be
Bills had
14-3.
won.
Yeah, I should say it for people that aren't looking at the stand. The Chiefs are 14-3. The Bills are the 2 seed right now. They're 12-3.
Assuming the
And the
Chiefs
Bengals
win
are
is the
11-3.
argument between the Chiefs and the Bills. And the Bills win too. If they both had won, it's their argument. The Bengals, it's not like they all had the same record, right?
Right.
Because the Bengals would say we beat the Chiefs
Cincinnati would say, well, we were winning the game. If we had won,
at
we could
home.
be the 2 seed. Hell, if the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Saturday, why are you looking at me like that?
It's happened before.
So Chiefs are not totally locked. I mean, for a 13-3 team, it's weird. But yeah, I mean, you're saying you would give some benefit to the Bills just giving everything they've been through?
Again, that was a take. I mean, I wouldn't argue against it. I think that, the Chiefs would be like, what the fuck? Like, what's,
Yeah. I mean,
there's no right or wrong way to do this without pissing people off. That's my ultimate point. And this is not a situation. Some of these, it feels like the league creates when they get into their hands dirty on the suspensions, and then they got to take stuff back. It's like you're creating these. No one created the situation. It's a freaky deal. The only thing that matters is fucking guy's health. The head coach told the other head coach, I can't keep coaching the game. Like this is I think the word unprecedented almost gets thrown around too loosely. This truly was, because we've seen like the NFL doesn't stop for anything.
right.
They were the league that, like, we're not doing no bubble. We're not stopping. We're fucking pedal to the goddamn metal. The 49ers moved states to keep on rocking and rolling. And that league sets the tone in America in terms of viewership, in terms of importance. And this is something that's out of every human's control. I saw it's pretty cool that thing's going viral of the trainer that did.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard one to argue. Even though someone like who goes first on First Take or Get Up and just goes nuts about the decision on Monday morning.
Is Shannon going to be there? Whichever one he's on.
Well, I could also see Skip tweeting something about the decision, and maybe bringing him back into, not Shannon, but Hamlin back into it, and then people getting mad about his tweet.
That's definitely on the table.
Because I saw Maria was asking me, she's like, I'm seeing all this stuff on Instagram about Skip Bayless. I don't really understand. Like, can you explain it to me? I'm like, well, Skip, you have to put him in his own category. He's hated. So he dipped his toes in the water on something where everyone just wanted it to breathe. Even the crazies on Twitter just let everything breathe. He couldn't help himself, but people already despise this guy. So it was easy for everyone to talk unlimited shit. Because I've had a lot of people in my DMs like, was he totally crazy? Like, this is an enormous elephant in the room.
On the last podcast, he was. I actually kind of buy his explanation. I was not saying they should keep playing. I was saying the opposite.
Yeah. And the argument, just for any simple-minded, normal human being, is like, can we just give it?
Yeah.
The guy's fucking laying on the ground, Skip.
Right. The argument is, hey, man, you know what you're doing. That's the argument, right? Just stay out of it. Just chill.
I wonder on that specific thing, maybe he just does know what he's doing. He was just thinking out loud.
Maybe he just thought, like, this isn't, how could this possibly be taken wrong? But I think the problem is it's hard if you play a role and then you're like, no, for this tweet, I'm stepping out of that role and just being a regular person. Now, he would argue I'm not playing a role. I'm just me. Right. But that's tough. Where it's like,
you believe that, don't you?
That
he believes a lot of his takes.
I think so. Yeah.
I saw a meme yesterday that was like, I guess, on yesterday's show with Shannon, Skip defended LeBron. And it was like, Skip is so scared of being canceled that he's even now on LeBron's side.
That's a great tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I honestly, even adding an 8th seed wouldn't bother me. I don't. None of it gets me worked up. I'd be fine with the extra games. If the Niners were the 1 seed, maybe I'd feel. If I was Philly, I'd be like, wait a second, we can't do this. But yeah, the reason I say the easiest decision at the beginning of this conversation is because
think about this. It's better for me and you personally in our business if the Niners play games. right? Like them playing in round one, assuming they win, is better than them having the bye.
Assuming they win.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you roll the dice every time you play.
You roll the dice. It's the NCAA tournament style, right? One and done. As the Cowboys fans, they're feeling themselves like, we're going to make a run. And then all of a sudden, Niners beat them, and it's over.
They got to know better, don't they?
Yeah, but you just never know. You go 12-plus wins in a season. Well, do you think Minnesota Vikings fans feel great about their chances right now?
I talked to one the other day, and I was like, you guys are overrated. And he was like, no, we're not. So, I don't know. I think he was feeling himself.
I think a lot of people...
Head coach of the Utah Utes, Craig Smith, big Vikings fan.
I think a lot of people are going to take the New York Giants in that game.
I think you're right.
I think they'll be a sexy pick.
I think the Vikings are going to win it.
I think it could get weird fast.
By the way, as you look out to this week...
do you know what's crazy? And again, like... It happened. There's nothing, obviously, anyone could do about it. But if that game had been just a random Sunday game and that same thing had happened to a player on a team with two non-play, it'd be so easy for the league to they wouldn't even have to do anything, right? Game just doesn't count, move on.
Yeah, if it didn't have...
Or maybe they would have to because it would impact draft.
What would make
order.
it harder, actually, is if it was like getting into the playoffs or not, or being left out, right?
Yes.
Like what happens if the Seahawks lose and what we just witnessed happens, like, God forbid, in the Lions Packer game?
Yeah, what if it was a Seattle or a Lions game? Or a Patriot Jets game? In a weird way, it is less it's a first class problem. But you could argue first class problems in the NFL when it comes to the number one seed. I mean, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Having that, especially now where only one team has a bye.
Yep.
It used to be both teams had a bye. You knew exactly where if you won, you're going to one or two places. It's just a lot different now, which I like. I like that it's you're so incentivized. The number one team's so incentivized. Like sometimes the 2 seed, depending on the season, like be 11-5 team if tie breaks broke their way. I would say probably historically it's 12 or over, but you don't have to be some great team to get that number 2 seed.
Yeah.
Sometimes on an individual division that gets in multiple teams, they beat each other up, and one team's 11, the other team's 10. There's another 8, right? Like the number 1 seed should be, to me, well rewarded over the 2 seed, and they were basically equals. I guess they had the home field advantage if they both won the second round, but
which was significant,
which was.
Because you both had buys, so I don't know what the percentages were, but there was a good chance that you would meet each other in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
So right now, not right now, going into this weekend, there's 4 teams that are just winning in. Packers, Titans, Patriots, Jags. Packers, obviously, I mean, that's what makes Titans, Jags great, is there's a 100% chance the winner of that game is in, right? Whereas like the Packer game, 100% chance they win, they're in, but the Lions have to win, and even then they're not guaranteed to be in, so they're in a different boat. 2 teams are guaranteed to be out if they lose. The Lions guaranteed to be out if they lose. The Dolphins guaranteed to be out if they lose. If the Dolphins win, they play the Patriots. They still need a little help, but
they need the Patriots to lose.
Oh, that's right, they don't play each other. Sorry, Patriots play the Bills, so the Dolphins need the Pats to lose.
So the Patriots control their own destiny, right?
Patriots control their own destiny, 100%. They win, they're in. Packers win, they're in, and then the winner of Titans, Jags, they win, they're in. That's simple.
And this is, I would say, a little bit like when Jay Billis and some of those guys argue over the last team in football. Like a lot of the teams we're naming, beside Aaron Rodgers, I would say are pretty irrelevant to the scheme of things. And most people believe that this Packer team, and I'm not far away, I take them seriously because of their quarterback and the way this league works. If he gets hot, now he's only thrown 4 touchdowns, I saw someone say, in their winning streak. So it's not like he's thrown 10 touchdowns. It's not like they're eviscerating. They're scoring defensive touchdowns. Rich has got them dominating on special teams, blocking punts, kicks to the house. It's a team effort, which I would say I've seen the 49ers win some playoff games. Sometimes that's better that translates sometimes than just like all dependent on one individual.
Totally.
Because I know at any moment he could throw 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Well, to me, it's like if the Warriors somehow made some run, if they won their conference with like in the regular season with Steph averaging 22 points a game, you'd be like, oh shit, what happens when Steph scores 35? Because I know what Aaron's gotten them.
The 49ers, what would you guess? 7-point favorite against the Packers?
Yeah.
Well, like they're going to be an enormous favorite. So I'm not acting like Vegas is going to favor them. I think a lot of people are going to bet on them. It's just not your typical enormous spread, right? It's just not. Even he has had playoff success. I get it. I'm not going to. I'm going to go in there with just thinking like this is a serious fucking game. Where I would not view the same thing against Seattle.
Rodgers' last 3 games wins in this 4-game winning streak: 182 yards, 1 touchdown, no pick; 229, 1 touchdown, 1 pick; 238, 1 touchdown, 1 pick; 159, 1 touchdown, no picks.
If you looked up last game, it was a lot of the defense all sprinting to the end zone to take their pictures.
And the kickoff return for a touchdown also.
And the kickoff
for that. They went 105 kickoff return touchdown, 75-yard interception return, some field goals. Yeah.
Honestly, I would rather play Minnesota week 1 than Green
Bay.
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, in a weird way, I agree that the Packers are better. I just think I'd be a little worried about Minnesota's offensive personnel. Even though I think they're so flawed.
I'll play Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just that simple.
It actually leads us to a perfect today on the television and then on the internet. Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy, said that he thinks the Niners are not great. The statement was made, and we all think the Niners are a great team. And Shady went, whoa, hold on a second. I don't think they're a great team. How are they a great team? When they played another, and I'm doing Shady here, he went, super great team, the Chiefs, they got blown out. Quote, they got blown out of the gym, is what he said. Now, you always want to tell me, this is Shady was arguing with them, like, hey, you guys say the Eagles haven't played anybody. The Eagles he's
an Eagle homer. Even though he got traded.
He said, well, they must be taking care of him, tickets, that kind of thing. He said, well, if you guys are going to say all that about the Eagles, I'm going to ask you the same question about the Niners, which a lot of people, that gets your attention because the Niners are the number 2 seed. They're 12-4, top defense, all that, great players. Every time you look up, they're scoring a bunch of points. So is Shady crazy? Crazy Shady. Are the Niners maybe not a great team? I don't think it's an outrageous statement at all. I think you might be right. I honestly don't know if there is a truly great team in the NFL this year. The Chiefs can be a little wonky, even though they're 13-3. I mean, that's
if the great team would come from if you were to beat those teams, right? If the Chiefs beat the Bengals and then beat the Bills and then beat the 49ers again, they had a great season, right? At 17-4 or whatever their final record would be. Where the Bills beat the Chiefs again, beat the Bengals. To me, the AFC team resume, same thing with the Bengals. You win the Super Bowl and beat, because they've played each other, you've had a remarkable season.
Yeah. Yes.
I think the Eagles and the Niners, if you wanted to nitpick, even though all that matters is you're the Super Bowl champions or you beat the NFC, it definitely has been an easier road in the NFC. Both people nitpick their 2 schedules. I'll say this about the Eagles. Their division's a lot harder than the Niners division. So you've played the Cowboys twice. You've played the Giants or technically after this season, or after this week, even though they're resting everybody. And even the football team, who did beat them, is a scrappy little squad, right? That's easier than fucking playing this version of the Rams or Arizona. But my point ultimately being is like, who cares? I've watched both teams when they're on. The Eagles went healthy early in the season, and the 49ers this last month with Purdy time, it's pretty clear they're damn good. And I would take their chances against those other 3 teams. Like the version we saw of the Niners, to me, is a lot different than the version now when they played the Chiefs. Because that game, best team they've played, was a massacre. It was a massacre. I mean, that was really bad. But I do believe they're much better now. And a huge reason is this is the best quarterback they've had starting for them this season. Not debatable, not arguable. Just like the eye test. But again, their defense was bad last week, but on the aggregate, it's been damn good.
Do you think the 49ers are a great team?
No. They could win the Super Bowl, I don't think. The Super Bowl, I think the 49ers, I think Harbaugh's Super Bowl team was better top to bottom, and I definitely think when I was a kid, the 94 team with like 11 All-Pros, Deion Sanders, Jerry Rice, Steve Young that's a great team. Like, I don't know if this is a great team. It's damn good.
I think
the NFL's a little watered down this year.
Yeah,
right?
I think the NFL. Yeah, I mean, part of it is, your strength of schedule is not going to be great when you are what the Niners and Eagles were, right? Which were teams who were not great last year. So just your opportunities are not going to be what the top of the AFC, and you would take it. Like, you'd rather play a weaker schedule. This isn't college football. You don't have to prove anything in the rankings. But your strength of schedule is just not going to be the same when you were a team that was a wild card team the year before instead of a division winner the year before, right? So, like, I think that's the first thing. Like, your schedule is going to look different fundamentally. Like, Philly and San Francisco, if they're the 1 and the 2 seeds in 2023, their schedules will look better just because they're going to have first place.
Well, I'll tell you this, the 49ers and the NFC West, I was looking probably within the last month. The NFC East is the NFC other division they play next year. So strength of schedule going into the season will look a lot better, right? Because they got 3 playoff teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Just add up the wins.
Yep.
So that means the Eagles are not going to be one of their first place games. So who are they going to play? Probably Minnesota and the Bucks will be 2 other games that they play.
Play the Bucks a lot.
Yeah, they do.
So
Tom will be there though.
I watched the clip. I didn't think LaShawn McCoy was saying anything crazy. I mean, now look, I do think the Niners on a given day can be great, right? I think their defense can be great. We've seen it, but I think I still think they have something to prove. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Like, if you go through this playoffs and beat an AFC team, we could look at you differently than we look at you today. If you're great, if you beat the Bills or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, like, that changes things. If you beat Philly on the road, that changes things, in terms of perception. Not that any of that stuff really matters. Like, the good news, I think, even though I agree with LaShawn, is that I do think on a given day, they can be great. They can be great. Like, their defense can be great. They have they do have great players, which allows them to be potentially great. Like, I think they're really well coached. So, but again, like, their resume is anything but. Like, they lost to the Bears this year.
I'll give you one. Akash, our buddy, tweeted this out, and it was forwarded to me by someone else. And Hufanga, who last year, late round pick, great story, has the fumble return, whatever. This year becomes a starter, Pro Bowler. People, when I tweeted, like, what an incredible accomplishment to be a Pro Bowler, and a lot of people are like, Pro Bowls don't matter. Well, yeah, the end result, whoever plays in the game, doesn't matter. But when you're announced to the original Pro Bowl team, like, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Derek Carr has made Pro Bowls as like the 7th alternate. But like Josh Allen being a 9-time Pro Bowler, that means he was announced the first Pro Bowl. And that's what Hufanga was. Hufanga's first 10 games, 4 picks. 4 picks. And obviously he was one of the best tacklers in the league. He was fantastic. He's still a really good tackler. But these last 7 games, the more tape that gets out on you as a starter, the more these offensive coordinators spend 90 hours a week in their office fucking game planning, watching tape. What have they done? They have gone after him in the passing game. They attempt to do anything possible schematically, formationally, with motions to get him, to force him to leave the box and cover somebody. He's allowed a bunch of touchdowns, 5 touchdowns the last 7 games. And you see it, like, that is never going to be his thing. So when the 49ers, like, he is one of their better players, right? When the Niners are rolling on defense, he's crushing people. But if you get him going back, not forward, because when he's coming at you, he's going to win. He's not going to miss a tackle. His closing speed's incredible. He's just a fucking hunter. When he goes back, like, he's got to play like Ed Reed, or just got to play like the position calls for sometimes, he is disadvantaged with speed. And that's, game 1. You play the Packers. I guess their tight end, I don't even know. Mercedes Lewis and what's his name
Anya?
tore his ACL last year. And then you look at the Cowboys, they got, what's his name, who's actually a pretty good player, their tight end, 80 Schultz. The Eagles, Goddard's a really good player. So, like, you do face, and obviously the AFC's got a ton of tight ends, right? I mean, the Bills, Knox, we know, who the Chiefs have. I don't know, one of the greatest tight ends of all time. Like, that is a position. What did we say the other night? Like, obviously Devontae killed them, but God, thank God they didn't keep going to Waller because they had no answer for that position. They're going to struggle with covering that guy. So I'm just nitpicking, like, what could derail them. Like, being a great team, you don't really have a weakness. That's why I go back to the 94 team. They did not have a weakness. Their running game was unreal because their offensive line was awesome. Their quarterback was mobile, and they had Ricky Waters and William Floyd. They had Brent Jones, Jerry Rice. Then defensively, their rookie was Bryant Young. Their linebacking core was fantastic with Plummer and Ken Norton. And then their DBs led by Deion fucking Sanders. Like, that team was, to me, just dramatically better.
Yeah,
it's one of the all-time great
Brock
teams.
Purdy's playing really well right now. Time will tell us whether or not, they have a great quarterback or not, or a really good quarterback or whatever. We'll find out.
They luck out a little bit, like we said, about, like, he is not matching up for the most part against Herbert, Allen, Mahomes, right?
Yeah, and also even if he does, he's got what he has in Debo, Elijah Mitchell, who's back at practice, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Juice, just the whole thing he's got is pretty unique, right?
So he left out the fifth quarterback in 2015, Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings on twice a game will catch some crazy third down. So now look, they're number 3 in DVOA. They're number 1 in defense. They're number 7 in offense. Part of my ultimate point is it's fine. You don't have to be an all-time great team this year to win the championship. I don't think, because I don't think there is one
100%
in the league this year. So it's okay. I don't look at them any differently, whether you tell me they're a great team or not.
Well, I saw someone comparing, like, stop talking about the 80s and 90s in the chat. You don't play those teams. You're not compared to previous year's teams.
Right.
You're not playing some of Belichick's great teams in the Super Bowl. You're not playing the 94 Cowboy. You're playing this year's squads. And I think the NFC, they can win the NFC. They would be the underdog in the Super Bowl more than likely, right? They definitely would be against the Bills or the Chiefs. The Bengals, that could be a pick 'em. Because if the Bengals were to get there, it'd be pretty damn impressive. That's part of it. Like, whoever gets there in the AFC is going to be like, damn. Obviously, the Niners would be impressive, but it's a little less impressive. Like, you're just not going to get as much credit being the Vikings when you're a 6-point favorite at home.
That's a good point. Whoever comes out of the AFC has won probably 2 games that will be very impressive, right?
I was thinking today, the Niners are pretty heavy favorites against everyone they're going to play, except a healthy Eagles. And even the healthy Eagles on the road, what's that line? Niners -1, or excuse me, Niners +1. If they're an underdog,
I could see it being.
I think if the Niners +3, fucking
2,
the country and the Sharps would take them.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
1.5, maybe.
Yeah, 2, maybe.
But if it's under 3, then right away you're saying these aren't equal teams,
right?
And we're acknowledging it's not going to be 3. So now you still got to play the games. The point spread's irrelevant if you lose. Ask the Packers last year. What was the Niners? 6.5-point underdogs going in that game. And honestly, if it wasn't for just momentum on their side, it probably should have been a little higher than that.
Then you watch the game, you're like, yeah.
I'll never forget that Jimmy roll out like, oh my God, Jimmy's going to make a play. Hits the Packer guy in stride. Remember that? They were in the end zone. Hit him in stride.
I do.
Purdy hasn't even come remotely close to doing any of that shit in the red zone. I'll give him that. No, I guess he almost threw the pick in the red zone.
On the goal line. Yeah. I still think, as you know, your lists and greatest things I've ever seen and blah, 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 like those evolve. The block punt touchdown is on the short list of just the most stunning. When you're watching a game going, they're going to lose. How on earth do they win this game? How do they get down the field and score? How are they going to score a touchdown? They can't do it. Can't be done.
Well, it couldn't be done. They couldn't have done it, right?
Couldn't have done it.
But they had Hightower, bro. He was scheming up.
Hightower, man. Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna get fired, aka leave
That
for another
Travis
job.
Chikawa's home runs probably up there, and like how like this. It's all they can't.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you're gonna get fired, go out with a bang.
Your unit has one of the great moments in the history of the franchise.
Yeah.
On the
Incredible.
road. I do think
Yeah,
on the
that
road,
place.
victories are, especially in the right environment. I remember Harbaugh won an on the road game at Carolina. It ain't the same. Like you went on the road in Philly, in Green Bay, you know, in the AFC, in Buffalo, in Kansas City, in Pittsburgh. It feels extra good, right? Because obviously if you're on the road, that means you're fucking the underdog. You know, that's the thing. It's a double whammy. Like you're not going on the road in the NFL playoffs like, oh yeah, we're favored by 5. Everyone
But
thinks
I
we're gonna
think
win.
like now it's not going to transpire. But if they were to go to Minnesota, they'd be favored. But that environment would feel pretty special.
Well, that environment leading up to kickoff, that 10 minutes before, and when Fox pans to the skull chant would be incredible, right? All purple, all perfectly timed. It feels like everyone's arms are moving at the same speed. They'd have like who would they have in there? Fuck, I just roll back out Bud Grant, have him, you know, shooting the cannon or whatever they do.
Oh, yeah. Byron Buxton.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say Kirby Puckett, RAP, but you could have some Carl Towns, KG.
Not Carlos Correa.
Is he signed yet with anybody?
Well, I saw the headline I saw today was him and the Mets are working through some things.
Gotcha. So far on wasn't pleased with Boris talking some shit.
Yeah.
I saw the Yankees re-signed every general manager from the last 30 years.
They got Omar Minaya and they got Brian Sabian. Incredible.
You just sometimes gotta have some scouts. That's your class. You think we're too analytical?
Yeah, I know.
We'll go throwback on you.
We need some horses. I wish they'd just gotten Bochy. That would have been perfect. God. So, John, coming up on Sunday, it'll be Sunday, January 6th is Friday, 7th is Saturday, 8th. It'll be the 8th. The first game that Brock Purdy started was December the 11th. Now, he came in the Dolphins game on the 4th. So, as we sit here on Thursday afternoon, we are basically exactly a month from his debut. Not his first start, but his Miami game. And, I think when you talk about a guy having 4 or 5 starts, you think, well, by the 4th start or the 5th start, he's going to look a lot more comfortable. And what I've been blown away with is that he looks the same. Like he looked 5 weeks or 2 years or whatever comfortable from the beginning. And I think one of the questions with him, because it's the part of the scouting you can't really do. It's the part of the combine that just doesn't exist. It's the part of the tape that doesn't exist. Like, who is this person? What does this human have when we get him in the building that will make him different from another human? And it does feel like he's got it.
I think sometimes when you get a backup quarterback coming in this case, the third string quarterback coming in, you see the coach try to create the trust. Like they get up on the podium, they go, "We believe in this guy." But it's like they have to say that. Where it's like, what are they actually saying in the locker room? I'll never forget Dick Vermeil saying, "Kurt Warner's our quarterback and we will win with Kurt Warner." At the time, no one had ever heard of Kurt Warner. And he spoke it into existence. And obviously Kurt won the MVP and the rest is history. For the most part, it never plays out that way. Like, who knows what the hell Mike McDaniel's saying to his team right now? They know they're kind of fucked. I mean, they're signing Mike Glennon. Their quarterbacks are dropping like flies.
Who is starting the game? Is it
I think it's the Skylar Thompson.
Thompson.
This one, right when the guy came into the game ended, and every guy on the defense, like to a man, it felt like, I don't think they're just saying this. And the leader of the defense, the guy that speaks the most, was pretty outspoken of like, I think he's going to be fine. Plays against us every week. You're like, okay. I mean, these guys know him. They believe in him. But ultimately, it's on the offense. Like, they got to play with him. And I think pretty quickly from stories about like Trent Williams saying he like yells at guys in the huddle to a couple games of I saw Brandon Ayuk's quotes after the Raider game of like, I don't know what more you guys need to see. Like we just saw him in the position, late game, tie game, down in the game, lead us down the field. George Kittle just saying like how instinctual he is when he rolls out on that pass that he threw for the touchdown. Basically, like he just keeps up his eyes. Like that's a trait that not all quarterbacks have. So the defense believed in him. Clearly, Kyle did. But it wasn't in the position like Kyle wasn't in position to be like, no matter what, we're going to win with Purdy. And that's not really his style anyway. But I think and really they're players, Fred, George, Trent's not a huge talker, but I think the wide receivers will definitely speak their mind when needed. That when they spoke just not even like overly glowingly, like, yeah, I don't know, this is
authentic.
Yeah. Because to me, he's passing, like the eye test is pretty remarkable.
So, what you just made me think of is week 2.
Did you agree that a lot of coaches, I don't know if they're necessarily faking it, but that's part of the gig. You got to like try to speak it into existence.
Well, you are talking to that person. I'm talking. He told the media he believes in me. All right. Well, do you believe in you? Do you know when you walk into a room if your teammates believe in you or not?
You see Robert Saleh today said he just needs to get away and read a book.
Who does?
Zach
Wilson. I saw Mike LaFleur said in hindsight, we should have benched him his whole rookie year. Mike LaFleur said in hindsight, it would have been better for him to sit.
Do you think saying that he knows he might get fired?
I think feels to me like he's kind of like, did they tell him this guy has to play and the coaches didn't want him to play? That's what it felt like to me. Is like,
but they didn't remember last year. They didn't have a veteran. It was just Mike White, or they got Flacco late, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they could have got a veteran if they didn't have one. But what you made me think of, listening to you right there, was week 2 when Jimmy came in. And remember how excited everybody on the team was? And it was like eye-opening. Like, oh my God, Trey Lance's season just ended and these guys are dancing around. But I think what it turned out, it had nothing to do with
dancing around. They almost did what you guys do at like Jewish weddings when they put them on the fucking shoulders and dance around. It was that close.
Did you hold the chair at my wedding?
Oh yeah.
I'll have to check the photo on that. But it had nothing to do with Trey.
Probably
really.
On her. I just you can't afford, got to put yourself in a position where if it does go down, you want the lightest possible.
I just remember feeling like the ceiling was like right there. But it had nothing to do with Trey, really. It had everything to do with Jimmy and how happy they were for this guy, for everything he's been through. And it was kind of similar for Brock. For these guys who love Jimmy, remember, they did not spend that game like crying over Jimmy. Now, they didn't have time to. But it was just eye-opening to see this moment where usually your starting quarterback goes down. It's a hit to everybody. And then Jimmy comes in, and it's just a party. Well, Brock came in when Jimmy went down, and it was kind of similar, right? Just like the first time it had nothing to do with Trey. The second time, here's the guy that we know they love in Jimmy. He goes out, and they kind of had the same reaction to Brock. Now, maybe if the wheel continued on and Trey one day came in for Brock, maybe they'd react the same way for him too. I'm not saying they wouldn't. I'm just saying we've seen it twice this year, and we know what they think about Jimmy because they've been through it all with Jimmy. Like, for better or worse, whatever you think of the player, he has been in the bunker with them.
Do you think they like Jimmy, the guy, and his toughness more than the actual player when they really kind of looked back on it?
I think fundamentally it's more about who we just love going to war with this person. Like, yeah. You know what? You could give us a more talented player that we don't like, and we'll go to war with Jimmy. Like, I kind of feel like some of them might say that. Kind of felt like that's what was going on with Trey. It's like, here's this guy, trust us, he's more talented. And remember some of the whispers, the Mike Silver article was like, yeah, they just trust Jimmy more. And the trust is the thing that's hard to come by. And it feels like I think what you're saying is like Brock somehow interactions in the locker room, answers in the film room, knowing what to do on the practice field, throws he made on the practice field, whatever.
Well, how about in that Barrows article about like he's one of the last guys to leave because he like looks at that board double because he like wants to make sure I don't misspeak once I get in the huddle, knowing that the offense is very verbal. You know how Kyle writes down the plays.
Yeah.
And like the last guy, he just kind of stares at it. Now, part of this probably is he's brand new. There's a lot going on. Kyle's, his offense, to read it's like reading Chinese. So it's like you got to spend extra time. But I thought that was just, this guy takes it very seriously. This is not, sometimes I think you see guys that kind of feel it once they kind of think they arrived. Now, it's easy for him not to think that. He barely was drafted. I mean, maybe that's a Zach Wilson thing. Like, did he really work as hard as he probably should have? Who knows? But I wonder if part of it is like, this guy actually is pretty cool, and he's a really good player. And then, like, part of our ethos as a team is we're just kind of grinder, tough guy, crazy motherfuckers, and he kind of has that in him. And when you really look back at, because I saw someone on Twitter was like, I hope if this guy becomes a starter long term, they kind of retire the big cock Brock thing. And I don't think it wasn't about trying to have some like juvenile nickname for him. It was more that like, no, we fucking think this guy's got a little shit to him. Like part of when they called, what was BDE or what was Foles' nickname? Wasn't he BDN, like Big Dick Nick or something?
Oh, the E is for energy.
Oh yeah, BDE. But I'm saying,
but he was yes.
I think part of it, and again, he's tall. Who knows? He might be packing heat. Was more just like, we can go into a big moment with this guy, with in the biggest moments in playoff games, and we can compete at the highest level with this guy. It's actually a term. What it means to me, unless again they could be talking about their actual packages, which are enormous. Foles much more physically equipped to probably be pretty more normal sized human. So you never know. Might have big feet though and big hands, something to keep an eye on. Is that I think they just think like this guy ain't scared of shit. And I wonder if the defense was kind of saying like, bro, this guy's fucking out there slinging in practice.
Yeah.
Well, we like mentally break a lot of guys. And I think Foles, which is weird watching him play now, it feels like this guy's terrible, but he really was pretty good those couple years with the Eagles. I think it was more of this, like that term symbolizes like, this guy's not our starter. No one's ever anointed him, yet he comes in and he just acts like it.
Yeah. Quiet confidence, meaning you believe in yourself, but maybe you're not in a position to tell everybody you believe in yourself, is not usually a quarterback trait because the quarterbacks are always front and center. So quarterbacks are constantly talking about everything. Like they get to talk about the whole thing. They talk way too much sometimes, more than they're capable of talking. But when you're the 7th round pick, you don't get to talk at all. But here came the guy who, he was not a nobody out of nowhere in his mind. He'd been a top prospect. He'd won a bunch of games. He'd been on big stages. And, sometimes it just translates. Like sometimes you've seen it too. A guy looks the same in college. It looks the same as a pro as he did in college. And it's kind of weird. It's like, wait, what? Sometimes guys look bigger. That's always a weird one too. Like Kenneth Walker, like to me, looked better in the NFL than in college, and he looked great in college to me. That was just me. I remember watching the Seahawks. Like, this guy looks even bigger. Some guys just look bigger. I see it a lot in basketball where like a guy has good feel in college and then he just goes to the NBA and just is the same. Just the same guy. Like a guy I always remember thinking that with Peyton Pritchard, played at Oregon and then went to the Celtics and just was immediately the same exact guy. And I don't know. It's pretty wild to see it play out. Because
wouldn't Dylan Brooks be a lot like that too? Wouldn't he?
Yeah, Dylan Brooks is exactly. That's another Oregon guy. Those guys know how to play. Like Dana Altman teaches you how to play. But I wonder if those guys all knew. It kind of feels like the point of this conversation when he came into the Miami game that they didn't have that many questions about how he would play. And maybe part of it is what you said. Like when you practice against one of the best defenses in the league, there's just a natural confidence that's going to come with that.
Yeah. I mean, all the stuff non-game is probably true, but then eventually, or not eventually, I mean, some guys eventually never get their shot, but when you are inserted into the game at quarterback, you kind of got to shit or get off the pot, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll say this, Jarrett Stidham immediately just changed the narrative of his career with one game. And if he just has another solid game, like part of football, because you don't play that many games. And when you're a backup quarterback, we all see the stats, like when a random guy comes in, you're like, how many games has Chase Daniel started? And you'll look like one career game is 14 years. Like, how is this possible? Because when you don't play, like when you actually play, you either got to play good or you're gone. You're almost better just never really playing. Only so many guys can kind of pull this Teddy Bridgewater. Like, I don't think Teddy Bridgewater's any good. but he's like good enough that at least in some people's minds where he's going to survive a little bit longer, but he doesn't play well now and he's injured all the time. Like to me, he's trending in the wrong direction fast. But if you put together good games, whether they matter, like week 18, some of these games, like Nate Peterman, if he threw 5 touchdowns this weekend against the Vikings, even if they lost like 50-42, it'd be the biggest moment of his life because you just get film on game day. It's just, I scouted. All these fucking teams pay all these people just to watch tape all day long. What are you watching tape of? They're fucking them in their classroom watching tape? You know, their preparation on the practice field? It's just games. His games, you said this earlier in the week, that there have to be people around the league, and I don't know what the percentage is of people that truly liked him. Like, it's one thing to kind of like, I think this guy's a pretty good player. Like, I wouldn't have drafted him, but I think he's a really good player. And then there's the next level of like, I not only thought this is a good player, I thought we should have been all over him, like, in the 4th round to be our backup. Like, that would be, to me, conviction on a guy that is going in the 7th round.
Yeah.
And my gut would say that was a pretty small contingent of people that were legitimately willing to pound the table and say, I had no problem telling our GM, telling our coaching staff, I would take this guy on the 3rd day of the draft. He can be our backup. My guess is that of all the people that watched him, whatever the pie chart is of the people that watched Brock Purdy, quarterback coaches, offensive coordinators, head coaches, GMs, scouting directors, pro scouts, college scouts, that 100%, my guess is that percentage is closer to like 10% than it is 30. And honestly, it might be under 10. I mean, people legitimately like, I will fight for Brock Purdy. But I bet there were some. And I bet the head coach was telling people, like, I'm telling you, this guy's going to play.
Yeah. When don't let him get it. That's my favorite quote. Don't let him get his shot because he's not giving it back.
Because I think at that position too, you just see the difference. Like if a good pass rusher falls, like how'd you get this guy in the 4th round? He 3 felonies, right? How'd you get this wide receiver in the 3rd? It's like
strength coach hated him.
Strength coach hated him. Shattered his leg, and a little issue that's never been reported that we found out about. Our owner doesn't even know. Quarterback falls. It's like you guys just don't think he's any good, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys just don't think he's going to play. Because I would say right around the 3rd round is like, well, he doesn't have the physical attributes, but he can be our backup. All those Sam Howells, Desmond Ritters, Matt Corrals. If you draft that guy in the 3rd round, you think worst case scenario, he's going to be a backup quarterback. I think Desmond Ritter, I've watched a little snip, looks terrible. Now, I didn't really like him at Cincinnati. Sam Howell, we'll see, right? Matt Corral hasn't played a snap all season.
Willis?
Oh, my God. I mean, he's not even functional, right? Like, you can't even play offense with the guy. Like, what if you what if you just swapped those two? Titans aren't even in this position. They've already won the division, right?
Purdy and Willis?
Yeah. And the Niners are fucked.
Yeah.
Because think about this. If the Titans would have taken Willis in the 3rd round and Willis would have fallen to Mr. Irrelevant and the Niners would have taken him with pick 266 or whatever the exact number is, what would everyone have said? You took Brock Purdy at the time. The 49ers got a guy that many people had in the 1st round at Mr. Irrelevant.
Right. Well, but then the standard for how good you have to be also changes.
It changes for sure. But
if Mac Jones had been a 5th rounder, everyone would be like, God, what a pick by Bill.
You could argue if Mac Jones had been a late 2nd rounder, they'd be in good shape. Right?
Shanahan. Yeah.
Shanahan. Yeah.
I just saw.
But is this and I'm not trying to be some hater here because I'm not the biggest fan. I'm watching. I like Brock Purdy more than Mac Jones.
The only reason I'm pausing is just I'm thinking about
Mac's bigger, so could he be more durable over time?
Expectations get.
But wouldn't you say Purdy's expectations are pretty high?
I think Purdy's athleticism would definitely be one of the things that's, well, now they are high. I'm just saying, like, if being a 7th rounder, I'm just trying to filter out what you're supposed to be when you're a 1st rounder, right? Would you feel that way if Brock was a 7th rounder or a 5th rounder and Mac was a 4th rounder? I do, just as I close my eyes and think about watching them, I think Brock is more of a playmaker. He's more athletic.
I saw someone on Twitter today wrote that Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey's 10-yard split, the first 10 yards of the 40, same time. And
Brock
shows.
doesn't scream at any of his coaches. Now,
Doesn't scream at anybody.
in his defense, he doesn't play for the coaches that, he doesn't have a defensive coordinator calling plays for him.
The other thing is Kyle would throw the Microsoft Surface at his face.
Mac might be better on the Niners.
You remember was it the Titans game when Kyle, it felt like, is he going to strangle Jimmy Garoppolo right here?
Kyle's intense face is so intense.
Feels like it's been all, now granted, it's all gone pretty well. I'd say the Raiders game.
Won 9 straight, but yeah.
Wasn't the offense's problem, though.
No.
And
he
D'Amico's
gets mad
not
at
a
the
big yeller.
officials. He got mad at the Kittle hold.
Oh, and he blasted the chick ref.
Yeah. Elijah Mitchell, Kyle Shanahan said, as we're talking here, expects him to be active this week for the 49ers. Back from his MCL. His practice window opened. He practiced this week. Shanahan told reporters after practice Thursday he expects Mitchell to be active for the game.
Do they have a too many player problem?
Well, they got. What you mean this week or just in general?
I'm just talking in the playoff game. How do you get everybody touches?
Well, who are you not getting touches to?
Well, the way it's been going is going pretty well, and Debo's been MIA for a little bit. So does he come back and get touches immediately?
Right, and it's been all McCaffrey.
I would say McCaffrey.
Mason. It's not like Mason's getting 10 carries a game. Like, oh, okay, they'll just go back to Mitchell.
I think you have to put.
But Christian also has an ankle turn. Like, it's a good time to dial him back a little.
I would have, because you're a knee injury away from Mitchell. That could change immediately. We've seen before. And Mason has clearly proven that they are more comfortable with him than Ty Davis-Price. Ty Davis-Price is in pads this week for me.
I agree. Not Mason.
And if I'm in a position in the second half where it's just like, we're just going to run the ball, he gets every single carry.
You're saying, would you have Mason in pads? Or just no McCaffrey?
I'm cool with having them all in pads and maybe having like one Danny Gray down or whatever. But I have my pitch is
wait. Hold on a minute, John. Danny's got to be there for the walkout with the stereo.
Debo's back now. He gets booted back a slot. I have my curveball is if in the second half it's 20-3 and the Eagles game doesn't matter and my seating is set, and I'm running up the gut, which is, I mean, he's like, wait, you just want me to call run plays? This is my favorite game ever. Ty Davis-Price getting every carry.
You know what's funny? I was thinking about it today. Is like, because I was
like, wait, you just want me to run it?
Well, I was thinking topics like, it's Jordan Mason's time, and then I thought, no, I don't. Actually, you don't want Jordan Mason getting hurt. Like, Jordan Mason has proven keep him fresh, and you can use him for a couple of big carries. So I don't want to mess with the Jordan Mason recipe, right?
I'm with you. Ty Davis-Price.
Jordan. I even so much. Is it Buck?
Yes, is yeah. Jordan.
So I don't want to give him like 17 carries and then he's banged up or he's not 100% next week or whatever. So I agree with you.
Now, I think this is a good 18 half carry for Ty Davis.
Does Mitchell get 10 in the first half or 5?
Yeah, because you do have to get him up to speed, right? You can't just show up.
Like you don't need to get Debo up to speed
or McCaffrey. But you can't just show up to the, F1 Grand Prix without driving for a while. Like you do need a couple runs for Elijah.
Do you though? I mean, like, don't you just need a couple next week? And I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I guess maybe you need him to test out his knee to know.
Yeah, he's getting carries. Because the one thing, and listen, this is going to sound cold-hearted, expendable player for the playoff run. Like they've been doing this without him. So it's like, are you in or are you out? Like, are we going to use you?
Yeah.
Like if you're not ready, and I love the player and when healthy,
point.
But it's just, if you're not ready, we're just got to roll with Mason, McCaffrey, and Debo as our backfield.
Right.
To me, Debo's not getting any carries in this game.
You don't want to have Elijah dressed for the first playoff game, not have another running back dressed, and then he can't give you.
For sure.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And same with Debo. I just need to gauge which.
See, I wouldn't give Debo a touch this week.
He's getting them, don't you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't even play him this week.
I don't expect him to be in pads.
Speed. I didn't watch Kyle today. Oh,
he said
Devontae wearing a Fresno State shirt at his press conference. Hoodie.
Yeah, it feels like were they a little tighter than they act?
They did. They put the trade together. Didn't you see what David said on David Carson on NFL Network? I don't think, like, to me, Debo's the guy that doesn't need to ramp up, but whatever. These guys know him. Yeah. Wouldn't hurt to have him and Brock have a couple plays together, I guess, if we're looking for reasons, but
Brock's like, you want me to throw a wide receiver screen? I think I can figure
Brock's
that
like,
one out.
Josh isn't playing? Josh Johnson's not starting this week?
Yeah, to me, we got Ty Davis Price and Josh Johnson written all over in the second half.
Speaking of Derek Carr, a fork in the road game for the Seahawks. Does the Seahawks making the playoffs this year affect anything they do moving forward? Keep in mind, Seattle right now has the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft, and Denver's pick. And they also have their own pick, which right now is 19, whatever that's worth. That can move because there's half the league is not half, but like a quarter of the league is 8-8 right now. So are they at a turning point this weekend with what they do next at quarterback? Crazy to think. Geno, the only quarterback that survived the season in the NFC West.
That's insane. You told me that before.
Really, when you think about it, he's survived, and all the other teams have had double quarterback injuries, right? Colt McCoy and Kyler have gotten hurt. They actually had a 3rd injury with Trace. The Rams had Stafford and what's his name? The guy that runs around got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Wolford.
Yeah.
And then the Niners had 2 starters hurt. So, like, yeah.
Well, do you know that Derek Carr, his contract becomes fully guaranteed, not when the league year starts, but 2/5/23? So, like a week after the Super Bowl, they have.
Wait, what day is the Super Bowl?
Like 2/10 or 2/9 or that
so
week
before the Super Bowl. You said February 5th.
February 15th.
Oh, 15th. Got it.
So the Super Bowl is, I think it's the day after Valentine's Day. So the Raiders need to either have a trade agreed upon, or they have to decide to cut him a month before the league year starts. I heard someone say that yesterday, and I was like, is that true? Look, that's the way his contract, which is actually, in fairness, if you're going to sign a fake contract and get a no-trade clause, that's a pretty good little thing to have in there for Derek. It's like, you're going to get rid of me, we're going to fucking know fast.
Yeah,
like you're not going to be able to cut me after the league year starts, and that some people have already, gotten married to other quarterbacks.
Right. And the other scenario would be he agrees to some contract rework and a trade. That's the other scenario, which is similar to just the straight up trade scenario.
In what world, unless the trade scenario includes a new contract, which is very possible, I think it's, if I'm Derek and you're truly pretty butthurt right now, which he clearly is and the family is, would you do business with the Raiders when you can force their hand to be cut on 2/15 and be a full-on free agent?
Well, the benefit of doing business with them is you have $40 million guaranteed to you, right?
But wouldn't, as a true free agent, he get more than $40 million? Like, isn't a big
you would
reason...
think, but that 40 is 2023 $40 million, right? That's his number next year.
No, it's 33, 23, and then like 7.5. It adds up to 40 over 2 years.
Yeah, I mean that would be your agent's right to figure out. But yeah, if you think you can make more money as a free agent, which how could he not?
He gets 33 next year, and then it only guarantees 7 the following year. I think he could do better than that on the open
I agree.
market.
So he should not return any phone calls.
Because those teams that are talking to the Raiders, like 216, we'll talk.
Also, if you're Derek, you're like, yeah, I don't want whoever I'm going to have just traded their 1st or their 2nd or their 3rd round pick or whatever.
Well, so if you're Seattle and you have this incredible pick, the Denver Broncos, who play the Chargers this week, who might have a chance to win because the Chargers, actually they have, unless the Ravens win, the Ravens can still get the 5 if they win and the Chargers lose. So the Chargers are incentivized to win to keep that seed, which you would say is actually a pretty good seed because you're playing the winner of the NFC South. And even if it's the Jags, who are technically hot, I think, are the Chargers going to be favored in that game, given the way they've been playing against the Jags on the road?
Yeah.
4-5?
Yeah.
So Seattle, like let's assume Denver loses, and that pick is 2 or 3. It's going to be the highest they're going to draft for a long time, right? They've proven this year they could fucking get to 8-9 wins with Geno Smith. Like, they got a good culture, they got good players, and they got more picks coming. Why wouldn't they be in the mix for Derek? Now, if you tell me John Schneider loves Will Levis, loves CJ Stroud, he's also proven that, like, he can love a quarterback, sign a quarterback, and then just figure it out. Isn't that part of Pete Carroll's deal? Like, would they be against, well, let's sign Derek and we'll draft a quarterback? Maybe the guy sits for a year. We get 2 years of Derek. Like, maybe that's in vogue now, the sitting thing.
Is it back?
Isn't most things in sports, like life, kind of cyclical?
Yeah. Yeah. Quarterbacks have gotten a little cheaper, right? Actually, rookies.
The draft, yeah, rookies, exactly.
Rookies have gotten cheaper. Yeah, I mean, you can if you just want look at we're going to go to the playoffs with Geno, who threw for 4,000 yards, led the league, and potentially go to the playoffs. Led the league.
If he, my point is, if he's cut, Seattle, you could argue win or lose. Like, Geno's really come back to earth. Wouldn't Seattle be, if they're interested in Derek? Is there a better spot that Derek shouldn't call back? Like, where's a better spot? Better in Indy, better in Carolina.
If Harbaugh were to go to Indy, I think Indy's team's pretty good, and their division not terrible. I mean, it's not a bad place to play. The NFC West not a ideal place. It's just hard, right? In theory, I guess the Rams and Cardinals are picking up the pieces. The Seahawks have done it before. I mean, they drafted Russ, and they saw at the time, like, the money they gave Matt Flynn was not an insignificant amount of money. It wasn't what you're going to have to pay Derek, but
well, okay. Assuming Harbaugh takes a job, let's just say in 7 days.
He said he's planning to enthusiastically be coaching the Michigan Wolverines next year. But
let's just pick a date. Let's say January 12th. He's named the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. So in 7 days from today, which would actually, it'd probably be longer than that, right? Because they're going to have to do a little bit of a dog and pony show, interview some people. The league is very sensitive with that stuff now. Let's say January 20th, he's hired to be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. That gives him less than a month to staff together, get everything figured out, and he's got to deal with Derek. That would happen pretty fast.
A trade, but if Derek's a free agent,
that's what I'm saying. But if he's a free agent, Seattle, their ducks are in a row much more than some of these teams that are in flux.
But if you're to me, it does not make sense to sign Derek and just to have a quarterback sit, because you can do it just to have a rookie sit, because you can do that with Geno. You already have Geno there. You like Geno. Geno's liked by the locker room. As Mikey B on the stream says, Geno played better than Derek this year, and he's probably cheaper.
Well,
right?
he is cheaper.
So if you're going to do we'll take a quarterback thing and let the veteran be the guy until the rookie's ready, I don't think you sign Derek to do that. I think you sign Derek if you believe.
Load up my squad with my picks.
Load up the squad with the picks. But again, part of this is, do you think Derek is an upgrade to Geno if you're the Seahawks? Because you could make the argument it's not.
Historically, it's not even close.
I think, the Derek is a much better quarterback than Geno Smith. And I do agree with you. I think Derek can be again. But, look around the league. There's a lot of teams look at the Niners for years.
My point is that's a pretty good spot for him. They run the Shanahan offense, which, he's kind of tailor-made for. They traded for Noah Fant, so they have a tight end they can run. They obviously have a stud running back. DK's a star. They easily could take another
good home field advantage. It's been a while.
They have
had a home field advantage.
A very positive coach, right?
Yeah.
If they signed you, they believed in you.
I'm just saying
I like that a lot more than the Carolinas and the Jets. I think that should be right up there. Assuming
Tampa,
they're interested.
No, thank you.
Fuck that. New Orleans, I'm not dealing with that.
What about Atlanta?
I'm not doing it.
I don't think Atlanta's terrible. Good receivers, solid coach.
Tight end, running back.
Football team?
Not touching.
Jets? No.
Worst spot in the league for
them. Pittsburgh's kind of out now.
I'd say they're out.
They like their guy again. Did you say Tennessee?
No.
We had to check the contract on old Tannenbaum.
Would
Jewish?
Would Derek decline a straight up trade, Mac Jones, Derek Carr? Because I've seen people throw that out there.
Would he decline it? You mean, would he decline it just fundamentally based on not wanting to play for Bill? I think you decline it based on their coordinator. I cannot go there to play for the beard.
What if Bill O'Brien comes back?
Yeah. We could not a positive influence necessarily, but a really
negative guy.
How about Miami?
Is Harbaugh a positive influence? You know,
Harbaugh has had a positive effect on his quarterbacks. Yeah,
but he's intense. Now Derek's intense.
He is. How about Miami? Did you say Dolphins?
I did not.
Tough division. But I think that could be a good fit. Like if we're just comparing it to Seattle, I mean, talk about a positive coach. Now you got to play Belichick. You got to play the Bills. You got to play the Jets. I mean, that's suboptimal.
And part of this conversation starts, remember, David Carr, his brother, poo-pooed one of Derek's long-standing, not takes, but ultimatums. What word am I looking for?
Declarations?
Yeah.
Claims?
I will retire
before
I play for anyone else but the Raiders. And David said on NFL Network with Mooch just staring at him.
Well, yeah, Mooch was not nodding. Did you notice that? Not nodding at all.
Mooch is looking. That went completely out the window the moment they threw him in the trash.
Well, you know what?
Well, Derek, you don't want to play for anyone else. So if they traded you, like eventually part of that was like, what if they get rid of you? That was always going to be the case. So that was not a fair declaration. You just completely made that up because it does sound cool. It was a completely fake statement.
Yeah, it was, but I also respect that he's not following through on his word. I'd rather him not follow through on that
I
word
agree.
than follow through on that word.
I agree.
And go out like that. Let Mark Davis run him out of the league. So,
one question I've been thinking about this. He obviously built an enormous house, ironically, not right next to Gruden, which neither of them are going to be Raiders for long. You get this good house in an area. I think he's a member at the Sweet Country Club there. He plays with some PGA Tour pros. He likes living there. That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
You got some tax advantages. I would imagine the community, got some other famous people. It's probably pretty sweet. I would guess when you roll into his cul-de-sac. Probably does not suck. I would imagine Gruden sold that house. His new neighbor probably isn't some nobody. Do you leave? Or do you, like, obviously you take your family if you go to Miami, Indy, or Seattle, but do you just keep that house and is that your home base moving forward? Or
tough. How close from Devontae are you?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think someone said that I read he built an enormous pad there too. He did that a couple years ago.
Maybe it depends. Like to me, if you go off and have success, you know what I mean. Then it's. I'm not saying
it's not the same as like staying in Philly or staying in New York.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
No, right? I'm just saying. Well, I'm just talking about what would feel right to you personally. I think you can stay there. Easy to get back and forth to Bakersfield from there.
A lot of people call, I'd say, areas like Florida and Vegas kind of like their home bases because of tax advantages, and then go. He's rich enough he could have other home bases, right?
Sure. I think you can stay there
because that's probably I don't know if it's the first thing that crossed my mind when I get benched and my career's over for this franchise that I've dedicated, what he's a third of my life to, and really 100% of my energy to. It's like, I love being here.
Do I have to leave?
I don't want to leave. And most people, when you get fired or get whatever from a job, you don't have a choice.
Non-renewed.
But this is one, like, I have an unlimited amount of money. Like I said, I legitimately could retire. When do you think Derek's going on, or Dave going on that podcast with all their cousins to break all the news?
The Harvester?
Yeah.
I think he might have already done it.
It just hit me. The Harvester. It's Bakersfield farming. Makes sense.
John, Sports Business Journal's John Orand tweets Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime and local channels this year, the rate 9.6 million viewers. 9.6 million. 2021, it was 16.2, so a 41% drop. He says now he's just reporting these are the facts. He says now he wrote Amazon Spin. It's the lowest median age for a full NFL season since 2013. 47 years old. It's the biggest median age gap between a standalone package and the other package. So the Amazon package is 7 years younger. And the viewership in 18 to 34-year-old demo is up 11%. Although I do think that could be directly attributed to 7,000 Niners channels on YouTube. But viewership.
Say the last thing on the young viewership.
Viewership in the 18 to 34 demo is up 11%.
I was going to say, do you think it's like Dude Perfect and some of that other stuff they got going?
Yeah, I don't know if that counts all of the YouTube, all of the different Amazon YouTube, all of the different Amazon channels, or just the one game broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Amazon didn't get into this because they thought that they were going to match. 2, this is a long-term play, and 3, it just boggles my mind. You know, if these people were watching it, I guess last year was on Fox, but if historically you used to watch it on NFL Network and that number was a little lower than Fox but higher than Amazon, is it that much more difficult? I mean,
just think
I've received 7 things from Amazon Prime in the last 4 days.
I just think it takes time for like we're talking about legacy television media. So it's just it takes time for things to change over, you know.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a positive number if you're Amazon. It's like we just rolled out the first year we're almost 9 million. Like folks, we all see where this is going. You know,
Agreed.
it's just a matter of time. Akash on the stream says, have you guys seen the reports of Mike McDaniel getting fired? Armando Salguero, longtime Dolphins reporter, writes this. If the Dolphins go from 8-3 to 8-9 and not in the playoffs, quote, everybody's job is at risk. If they win their season finale and sneak into the playoffs, Stephen Ross might look the other way on those 5 consecutive December to January losses, but it will feel more like a skid than a collapse. But if they go from 8-3 to 8-9 and not in the playoffs, everybody's job is at risk.
That'd be pretty crazy, I think. Do you think I was listening to Lombardi's podcast at the gym and had a good point that obviously both these two teams, you know, like the Dolphins, the Jets, I think, were 7-4 and they were 8-3. Some people were talking about the Dolphins in the playoffs. Well, or I mean, in the Super Bowl. Both these two teams, they play each other, right? Jets Dolphins, is that the game?
Jets Dolphins is the game.
Both these two teams, guy, are coming in on a 5-game losing streak. That means, assuming there is not a tie, the loser of this game is going to end the season on a 6-game losing streak, which in the NFL, I mean, that's basically 2 months. Obviously, Salah's year 2, Mike's year 1. Is the loser of this game getting fired? Because it crossed my mind when I saw LaFleur's brother, did you listen to him talk? Sounds just like his brother.
I read his quotes.
If I was one of the owners, and I think I got all this talent, Miami definitely does, the Jets definitely do. We don't have a quarterback. It's hard for me to blame Mike for Tua. I definitely can blame Saleh and Joe Douglas for Zach Wilson, who was an utter disaster, and they fucking.
Well, did Saleh pick him?
Yeah, remember that was LaFleur. But I wonder if the loser of this game gets fired. Because I do think if you're Woody Johnson, who's now back from his 7 years abroad doing who knows what, could go, why don't I just pay Sean Payton $20 million? I have this sweet team. He can just inherit it, and he'll fix out my offense. Thanks for the work, guys. Or Jim Harbaugh. Hasn't Stephen Ross sniffed around on Jim Harbaugh before?
Sniffed around? He said, I won't steal him from Michigan, my alma mater.
And he tried to hire him when Jed got him, remember?
Yeah. So, I mean, that could make, is Mike McDaniel, like if you told me Stephen Ross was not going to fire Mike McDaniel but then Jim became available again. And then if you fire a guy because you have a guy you love, then I got no problem with that ever. I don't care if it's been 1 year. Like if Sean Payton told the Texans he's coming, sorry, Lovey,
I mean, Lovey might get fired.
We might get fired anyway, but you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I do think having watched both these teams this year, as you have, and a lot of people have, like especially the Dolphins, their quarterback situation has been all over the map. I mean, I give Mike McDaniel credit for making Tua look good, better than he's ever looked. So, now I understand you're an owner. Like we're 8-3. What the hell happened, fellas? But I'm watching.
The Jets were 7-4.
That one I would judge even a little more harshly because, like you said, if they picked that quarterback, like I don't care. It's not Mike McDaniel's fault who the quarterbacks are.
I agree, but the other thing that crossed my mind, but the Tua situation, maybe you blame Mike for, I don't know. I do wonder for Saleh, this is what I think about just in my spare time, if he was fired, which I don't think he should be, and I don't think necessarily he will be, but 6 games, I mean, it's the NFL. These owners have unlimited money. You never fucking know. It's all chump change to them. Would he interview for jobs that week?
Yeah,
Or
I
has
think
he
he'd
not
get
done
head
enough?
coach interviews.
I
think
thought so too.
Yeah. Now, could they both work for D'Amico? Like,
D'Amico's
you
like,
don't think
part
Mike
of my
McDaniel
deal is a package deal. Saleh's my DC. Mike's my OC.
do you think Mike McDaniel would interview for jobs that week?
No, I don't.
You don't think Mike McDaniel will get hired as head coach?
I do not know.
I think he might. I think he would interview. I think 100% he would interview. I think the Panthers would talk to both of them.
Their offense was pretty sweet before Tua's head fell off.
He turned Tua into, some were claiming, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL by some measures. I think he did. I think he proved a lot with Tua. I think I could see the Panthers liking him. Now they might just give Steve Wilkes the job.
Also, well, that was a classic Sunday news drop. All signs pointed to Steve Wilkes keeping the job. And then you look up 3 hours later, Tom Brady's throwing bombs to Mike Evans. You're like, yeah, he's probably not keeping the job.
Sean on the stream said the original Peyton as the head coach and Brady as the owner player comes back on the table in Miami. That's a good point, Sean.
Well, guy, why wouldn't Woody Johnson be interested in the same fucking thing? I think Woody Johnson would say, our team is more complete than their team.
It would make more sense for Tom, but I mean, both would work. Tom may just want to stay. Sean may just want to be beachside where you can listen to.
Kid he kisses in New York.
Huh?
The kid Tom kisses.
Oh, the kid he kissed. I was like, who is Kitty Kiss?
Tom's the kid. It's Tom's son that
Tom's
he gives
son,
neck kisses to.
Good point. Good point.
Which again, I mean, it's to each his own. But
interesting. God, that kind of makes that game. What's the
I'm pretty interested in that thing.
That's a
you want to hear my opinion?
Jets plus 2.5.
Loser of that game gets fired.
Who do you think loses that game? Dolphins.
I think
win that game.
For as crazy and people think Woody's nuts, Steven's way nuttier. Stephen Ross is the way richer, high-level businessman Dan Snyder, I think. I mean, I'm not talking like, clearly he's better with the other owner. I just mean like, you can't be shocked at anything this guy does. If you told me he like has some power play to get like one of the top EPL coaches to consult his football, this guy's out there. This guy is out there. And he has unlimited money, unlimited cash. He literally, in Jed York's backyard, out-politicized him with public donations, and his guy won because he's fucking building all the real estate around Jed Stadium.
Incredible. That's a pretty big power move.
Massive. This guy's fucking based on the East Coast. It's like, yeah, Jed, I own Santa Clara too.
All right.
I do think if one of those two guys is fired Monday, it doesn't even feel like they'd be fired Monday, but who knows?
Why wouldn't they be?
You're right. It feels
You're
more like,
do it.
oh my God, Wednesday. You see I text you, Robert Saleh's been fired. Feels more like a Wednesday than Monday, but let's just say Monday. That'd be a pretty big wow.
Robert Saleh. All right, let's say they both get fired, which we don't. That's not what you're predicting, but just the job for each guy. Next job for Robert Saleh would be what?
Which you could also say is on the table regardless of the outcome, assuming Miami misses the playoffs.
Would Saleh, if D'Amico left, which it's 50-50 at this point, he may not. I mean, he's going to be a head coach, but would Saleh immediately come back? No, but being the Niners DC would be on the table if he doesn't get a head coaching job, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next job for each.
I think Saleh has a much, much better chance of becoming a head coach. I actually could see Denver. I could see a lot of people. I think he's really well respected. I wonder if a lot of people wouldn't touch Mike's weirdness right away.
It could go either way. My thought on Mike is Denver. Remember, did the owner say the next head coach is going to report to him?
Yes.
I could see the owner and the owner kind of feeling like, me and Mike, we'll be a good little team here. Mike's different than most football guys, which don't really want to talk to the owner. Mike might, I don't know. I can see the owner thinking like, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go get Mike McDaniel. He fixed Tua. I got all this money. I don't know if you saw, was it Rap Sheet? Somebody on NFL Network said, you could cut Russ and take the $108 million hit next year.
But it's not about paying him to go away. They would gladly do it. It's what your cap to sign players. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. You might as well just utilize them.
So
remember Mike McDaniel's from there, so he's got to start as a ball boy.
That's right. I think Mike in Denver, I think a weird owner situation to me would benefit him.
Would you rather have, if you and I ran Denver and we're talking, we're like, they're both going to get fired Monday, right? Let's just say they're both. Would you rather have Mike as the head coach, Robert as the DC, or Robert as the DC, excuse me. So Robert as the DC, Mike as the head coach, or have Robert as the head coach, Mike as the OC?
Whatever ends in Mike calling offense is fine with me. Either one. Both of them has shown they can handle weird, awkward, difficult situations.
I would go with Robert as the head coach. And just let Mike focus on offense. I think he's proven this year. He's proven this year it's like he can kind of motivate that group.
What about New Orleans?
I'm kind of expecting them both to get fired now.
Carolina, Atlanta. The Jets one is,
bro, these are weird places, man.
If you like the quarterback, then yes, you deserve to get fired.
What those two places are what Mike or Michael Bidwell and Mark Davis dream of doing. Having unlimited cash, and every time I hate the coach, fire them.
Yeah.
What Al Davis used to be able to do. Why? He didn't pay the coaches anything. It was easy to do. Those guys can do it, and they cut those huge checks. And those type guys are the reason that the league told everyone at the league meetings, you guys have paid $800 million in the last 6 years to tell people to go away. They're like, yeah, we don't even care. We'll pay $800 million more if we think we need to. It's all fake money that we're just getting from the league, right? Or, the money we're generating as a league. Yeah. Mark's like, God, I'm fucking jealous. Because if you were Mark, wouldn't you could easily justify firing everyone and throwing the bag at Jim Harbaugh, right?
100%. But Jim's going to cost you another $110 million.
And I would imagine if Jim comes back, who's going to be his defensive
coordinator? That'd
be
3 straight years of insane coaching contracts.
It would.
Well, not 3 straight years. The Gruden contract was a few years before that, but
assuming he got out. It feels like if he didn't get out and was trying to get out, it would have got out that they were like at each other's throat. I think it's pretty clear. Maybe there was a payment made. Deuce kept on the staff. Like you can add up the pieces on that one. I don't think Deuce randomly got saved.
Probably not. Everybody's a pawn. Yeah, we were going to talk about Kayvon, but I'm in too good of a mood.
Yeah, I don't want to.
The gatekeepers. Who are these gatekeepers, John? For you, if you didn't see that, I just if you didn't see Kayvon's interview where he said he doesn't care about Jeff Saturday, I almost called him Bob Saturday. That's not even the best part. The part where he says he doesn't know who Jeff Saturday is not even the best part of the video. The video of him, he's like, we are going to talk about it. He talks like he has just given a speech at Harvard's commencement. Who are these gatekeepers? Who are they to say? Who can celebrate what? Who are you to say what the narrative is? Once we figure out who the gatekeepers are, then we can have a conversation about what's right. And the reporter's like, yeah, I think you said it might have been Jordan Renan. Yeah, man, can you give me a quote on Jeff Saturday, please? Just the head coach, the other guy, the other team, Super Bowl champ, Pro Bowler, all that. He's the guy that said it. I'm not the gatekeeper. I'm just saying he didn't like you doing snow angels and no snow after you came untouched. I do think there's a difference, if you came untouched on a blitz, unless you made some defensive audible call that got you untouched. I think you celebrate like 2 notches less when you were untouched. And
it looked like you peeked at him, right?
Yeah, and it looked like you peeked. And it went on forever.
He didn't do snow angels. He did a snow 75 angels. I mean, he fucking did 18. Honestly, how many snow angels do you think he did? 16?
Way more than you're watching and going, this has to be the last one. This Foles is just writhing in pain.
Help!
Who are the gatekeepers?
Yeah, man.
It's highly recommend you watching that. Highly recommend. Just a man asking a question, waiting for an answer. Also,
do you think Jeff Saturday's the next head coach of the Colts? Because I kind of do.
God, I don't know. Depends, I guess, on Jim. But you know what happened after you sent me the thing. I watched it. You said multiple people sent me the Kayvon. Like, what is Kayvon doing? I watched it again today, and really today absorbed it and enjoyed it. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I've heard Kayvon say he's a student of the game. So a quick little Google search found that he did say it on Sunday Night Football on NBC. He went on the set after his great Sunday night game. Jack Collinsworth said it might have been the greatest Sunday night performance he can remember. And Kayvon said, I'm a student of the game. Also, a little clip we can bring back if the Giants play the Niners. He said he hates tight ends in that interview. But he says he's a student of the game. Now, maybe he just means I've film studied the game, not necessarily the history of the game. Not a historian, maybe that's what he meant. I just studied the tape. But how did he miss the Jeff Saturday story this year? That's the other question.
Because honestly, the way he said it, I kind of believed him. Like, he's got no clue who Jeff Saturday is. Do you agree?
I do think it's possible that he doesn't know Jeff. Which, whatever. Like, I don't actually think that's insane.
No, I agree. I think he knows, like, Jeff Saturday's the coach of the Colts or whatever. But if you said, like, you know his resume, he wouldn't know. Like, oh, yeah, he was the Peyton Manning's guy for their heyday. In fairness, he would have been young.
Yeah,
right?
I think he may know, but I also I don't think it's like I'm not killing him if he doesn't actually know Jeff's resume.
Yeah,
are you saying Kayvon, you're full of shit if he doesn't know his resume?
No. I believed him. He doesn't know who this guy is my point.
Who are the gatekeepers? Who are these gatekeepers? I don't even, again, the Saturday part to me is so irrelevant. Him going off on who are the gatekeepers is the best part.
So I didn't know this, but now it makes sense. Saturday must have gone on a rant about, like, it was chicken shit what he did. Is that what happened?
Jeff Saturday? Oh yeah. I don't know if it was a rant, but Jeff Saturday just said it was bullshit. Yeah.
After he's losing 45-6 again. You see that? You ever see just the running total of the scores?
No. What is it?
Why, it's enormous. I mean, they've been outscored in the fourth quarter, I think, since the Raider game. As everyone always likes to say. Don't ever forget, Jeff Saturday did beat Josh McDaniels. So once you remove that, I think the scoring, Colts versus everybody since the Raider game, fourth quarters is really, really high.
After the Raider game, they lost by 1 to Philly.
They were up in the game, though, remember? And the Eagles scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It's fourth quarter scoring.
Oh, fourth quarter scoring. Got it.
I think it's like 100-0. Because the Eagles were down 17-3. The Vikings were down 1,000,000. I mean, the Giants just scored a bunch. Like, everyone's scoring a lot of points on them as the game goes.
Gotcha. I mean,
I think Jeff Saturday took back over the play calling, too, from Parks and Rec.
Oh. I'll say this for Kayvon. Jeff Saturday did just come off the ESPN set, too. It's not like Jeff the player, a lot of respect, right? Jeff the coach.
Does Jeff Saturday keep receipts when he heads back to the ESPN set of what all the people on ESPN talk shit about him? Or do you just...
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't you? I don't know if you kept the receipts so much as you spend the offseason finding them.
Yeah.
All right, NFL Live from Tuesday, December 7th. Let's cue that up.
You do like a query.
You're like, all right, let me watch the Sal Pal 2 a.m. show, see what they said on the film study show.
You could argue you put your assistant on that project this week, right? You're like, well, I might not have an assistant anymore, so I got a project for you, bro.
Like Jeff spent the whole offseason watching tape, didn't sleep. What was he watching? Orlovsky.
Mina Kimes talk a bunch of shit.
All right, now I'm on to Fox. Let's see what Acho said. All right. All right, couple games on Saturday. Sunday, we'll see what happens.
Cheers.
Hopefully Sunday Night Football is good. Cheers. Wet January. Monday is the national championship game. We'll be back before then, but just something to keep in mind.
Good luck, Sonny.
Yeah, good luck, Sonny. Are you rooting for Sonny Dykes to win the TCU to win the championship? I am.
You know, I haven't decided. I think it would be pretty cool to see. I like seeing a guy create a dynasty. And I think
Kirby
would just be
I think it'd be great.
Behemoth.
I just think TCU winning the championship would be one of the, like, we see it in other sports. Like, I guess Butler didn't win the title, but they were in 2 titles. It's just such an unfootball thing to see, you know?
Would this be Jim Valvano of our lifetime?
I mean, they were in the Mountain West 10 years ago.
I know.
It's insane.
I know, it's crazy. But it's not
really
that crazy. Didn't they win a Rose Bowl like 5 years ago?
TCU?
TCU played in a Rose Bowl.
Was it a CFP year? I mean, what?
They played Wisconsin in 2011.
What the hell happened in 11?
Not quite sure, but they went 13-1.
But wait, but they were a Mountain West team that year.
They won the game.
TCU,
Rose Bowl. They were
played
3 versus 5.
Wait. Oh, was that the year Oregon played Florida State? Well, that
Probably.
was Rose Bowl too.
No, that was the year that Oregon played Auburn.
Auburn. Okay. Andy Dalton beat Wisconsin. I don't remember that, but they were a Mountain West team that year, right? Or were they a Big 12 team?
It's a good question.
11? I think they would have been a Mountain West team.
They were 3. They were in the Big 12 that year. It might have been their first year. They actually kind of cruised the Big 12. They were 13-1. The next closest team was K-State at 10-4. I mean, fuck, they came in guns blazing. This would be their second. I guess this isn't the Rose Bowl. Huh? This is SoFi.
Wait a second. The FCS National Championship game still hasn't been played? Somebody just said, Jay Mill said, who you got? NDSU versus SDSU in the Natty.
I think they go by after the semis, maybe.
So North Dakota State plays South Dakota State? Yes.
Didn't Troy Taylor play like 7 weeks ago in the second round?
Yeah. And they play FCS National Championship game is in Frisco, Texas. Guys, this Sunday afternoon? Why?
This should be a Friday afternoon game.
Are they really playing this Sunday? What? Hold on. Quick poll here. Is Trey going to be, which game will Trey Lance be at?
Hell of a question.
So they play January 8th, this Sunday at 1 o'clock on ABC. So ABC's like, let's just get some content. You know what I just said? ABC carries the FCS championship game at, I don't know which is this, a 1 o'clock Pacific, whatever. Probably not. You know what they should, this game should be the lead up. They should play this game, like, I don't know, before the FBS national championship game.
I'll tell you when they should play it. It should be an 11 o'clock kickoff, couple hours
Saturday?
leading up to the Chiefs Raider game.
Well, yeah, they should play it Saturday. Anyway, how about a Monday night doubleheader, the FCS championship game and the FBS championship game?
Reality is no one really cares about this Division I AA game. That's just a fact.
I mean, if you told me it was Monday, I'd watch it.
I think that's kind of your preseason take. You say it, I don't think you'd watch much.
If it was close in the fourth quarter. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us.
Adios.